Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held July 17, 2018 at 6 p.m. If we could please have the clerk take the roll.
Councilmember Althouse.
Here.
Councilmember Henry.
Here.
Councilmember Howdigi.
Here.
Councilmember Norman.
Here.
Councilmember Pfeiffer is absent. Vice Mayor Allen.
Here.
Mayor Alinsky.
Here, thank you. If you would please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next on the agenda is a brief summary of current events by the Mayor, City Council, and/or City Manager. Any council members have anything to report tonight?
I'll be real quick. I have just a couple things. First, I want to thank you for allowing me to represent us at the 4th of July event. That was great fun. There was a bunch of kids there. I mean, it was just a really, really good event. I'm always amazed every year how city pulls it together and entertains so many people. Also had, and I'm sure some of the other council members have had, their first call with Novak Consulting as we're looking for our new city manager, and that was it was great to know that we're moving forward with that interview process. Also participated in the professionals women's group quarterly luncheon today, and what was neat about today's quarterly luncheon was that they handed out two $1,500 scholarships to two recent graduates to go to their college of choice. And I don't have their first name, so I'm not going to give them. I'll probably do it next time that we're able to give their whole name. But one of the young women, she's 17 years old. She's such a go-getter, and she's going to Harvard. So I was really pleased with that. So that's all I have.
Great. Any other council members? No? Well, thanks to the Vice Mayor and Council for keeping everything together in my absence. Nice to come back and see the city wasn't in complete disarray and chaos, with the exception of the campaign signs that are littering our town now. But that'll be resolved soon enough. Whose idea was it to do the campaigns during the monsoon season? Sign maintenance will be your biggest challenge, I can guarantee you. Anyway, nothing to report from me. Next up is call to the public. And this portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that's not listed. Oh, I'm so sorry. I skipped you, Mr. Manager.
You must have known. I didn't have anything to share today.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Again, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that's not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action. Are there any folks tonight that would like to address the council? No? Okay. We'll close the floor then and move on to approval of the minutes of the budget work session of May 10, 2018, regular meeting of June 5th, 2018, and special meeting of June 25th, 2018.
Make a motion. Move we approve budget work session minutes for budget work session of May 10th, 2018, regular meeting of June 5th, 2018, and special meeting of June 25th, 2018.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Now we move on to item 7, which is the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine, non-controversial by the council, and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. We have 2 items tonight on the consent agenda. First is possible award of contract to AZ Western Contracting to construct drainage improvements along Silver Springs Wash. Second item on the consent agenda is approval for staff to submit an application to the State Historic Preservation Office for a 2018 Certified Local Government Historic Preservation Pass-Through Matching Grant. Any items a council member would like to have pooled? Any items a member of the public would like to have pooled? Okay, and do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll second that. So Councilmember Henry made the motion, Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Moving on then to new business, we have first on the list here tonight is a public hearing on proposed new capacity fees on new non-exempt water and wastewater service connections.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm Rudy Rodriguez. I am the Deputy City Manager for the City of Cottonwood. And with me today, I have Kevin Burnett and Pat Walker, who are consultants who helped us put the capacity fee program together, and we wanted to kind of go do a small kind of a refresher on the presentation, since it's been a couple of months since we've actually done anything with it. And then we'll go ahead and open it up to the public, if that's fine with council.
Sounds good. Evening.
Okay. Mayor, members of the council, this evening I'll be presenting to you the items that we've talked about in a couple other sessions. This is, Rudy said, is a recap of the water and sewer capacity fees and the steps that we put together the recommended fees for the city of Cottonwood. So we'll review the purpose of the study, because we're going to talk a little bit about why we do it, the overview of capacity fees, the fee calculation. And I'll be back up to talk about the comparisons.
Thanks, Pat. So as Pat said, when we looked at the water side, it was an incremental approach because you didn't have any available capacity in the existing water system to serve new growth. So Pat identified that there was growth-related capital projects over the next 10 years, so that's the $2.4 million that you see up there. Pat also alluded to that it's acceptable to include interest on debt that you might be issuing to pay for the growth-related costs. The city's not anticipating to issue any debt to pay for those capital projects over the next 10 years. So in terms of determining the system value, it's just the cost of those growth-related capital projects themselves at the $2.4 million. So that's the numerator in the calculation. The denominator then is how much capacity is available or how many customers can be served. And we looked at that in an equivalent dwelling unit basis. So what we did was we looked at the peak demand capacity associated with those growth-related projects, and that turned out to be 576,000 gallons per day. We looked at what the average residential use was, and an average residential customer currently uses 270 gallons per day of water. So 270 gallons per day was our equivalent dwelling unit that we used as the basis of our calculation. That formed our denominator. So when you take the capacity that could be used divided by 270 gallons per day, that told us that those growth-related projects had the capacity to serve an additional 2,132 equivalent dwelling units. So then if we take the system value itself, our numerator, and divide it by the number of new units that can be served, that tells us that the cost of capacity per new dwelling unit is $1,124 on the water side. And then we also looked at your customer base, and a typical residential customer needs a 3/4 inch meter. So what we did here was, if it's going to be a development that requires a larger meter size, we looked at AWWA meter equivalency ratio. So this is based on the hydraulic capacity of the meters. So a 1 inch meter can push more water through per minute than a 3/4 inch meter. So that's reflected in the higher meter charge for a 1 inch meter, recognizing the fact that a 1 inch meter will use up more of that available capacity than a 3/4 inch meter will. On the sewer side, we used a buy-in approach as opposed to the incremental approach. The reason being, on the sewer side, you recently expanded the treatment plant. You've got a new facility that's come on board. There aren't any new growth-related projects anticipated in the next 10 or so years that are going to add capacity to the system. So we decided that the buy-in approach was the appropriate one to go on this for this fee area, and it's based on the value of the existing system as opposed to a forward-looking approach of what you're going to build. So the first step for the buy-in approach was to identify the fixed assets that you had existing today and bring it up into today's cost. So what would it cost for you to replace all of those existing facilities today? That's what we're asking people to buy into. At the same time, though, we recognize the fact that it is not, in fact, a brand new system. It has been in the ground for a while. There is depreciation. So it would be unreasonable for us to ask people to buy into a brand new system when they're not actually going to get a brand new system. The other piece of this is that over the course of time, you've accumulated some fund balance that's going to be used to benefit new customers as they connect to the system. So we're going to ask them to buy into that fund balance that others have paid before them. And then the final piece there is we subtracted debt principal. So you do have some existing outstanding debt on the sewer side. It's paid for through rates. So as a new customer connects to the system, they will be paying that debt service through their rates. So if we didn't take that out of the calculation, we'd effectively be asking them to pay for it twice. We'd be asking them to pay for their debt service in the capacity fee itself, and then we'd be asking them to pay for it a second time through their rates. So we back that out to eliminate that double counting. So here we have the calculation of what the system value itself is. So we've got the assets themselves, including cash, at $64.4 million. The accumulated depreciation, again, because it's not a brand new system, was at $11.6 million. And then we've got $2.3 million worth of debt principal that's going to get paid for through rates. So when we subtract those two components out, we come up with an overall system value of $51 million for your existing sewer system. Again, we took the EDU approach on the sewer side to determine what the capacity of that is. On the sewer side, we had 158 gallons per day was a residential equivalent. On the sewer side, you don't have irrigation water getting into the sewer system, so that's why you often see a little bit lower gallons per day on the sewer side than you do for water. The plant capacity is at 1.8 million gallons per day, so when you divide that by 158 gallons per day per residential equivalent, the sewer system can serve 11,381 customers. So there's plenty of room to grow in that without having to add any new capacity to the system. So again, we take the similar approach. We take our numerator, which is the value of the system, divided by the capacity that can be served, and we come out with a cost of capacity per equivalent dwelling unit on the sewer side of $4,502. We take the same approach to larger meter sizes on the sewer side, again with the understanding that if you have a larger meter on the water side, you're going to be discharging more sewer flows on the sewer side. So again, it's using hydraulic capacity ratios from AWWA to recognize the fact that the larger meters are going to use up more capacity in your system, so they should be asked to pay for a higher fee to recognize the fact that they are using up more capacity in your system. And with that, I will turn it back over to Pat to discuss some comparisons.
Mayor, council, members of the audience, this is the comparison that I always tell you that I really don't like because of the fact that every community is different. There's a lot of things that go into why it's hard to compare water and sewer capacity fees from one community to the other, but I know that we're always asked that and are asked to provide that. The reasons affected is because the number of persons per household and the water use is different. We talked about the gallons used per day and into the equation, and if you're another municipality or organization, then that number could be different, and it looks different as far as the fee goes. The lot size, the age of the system, especially when you do the buy-in approach and you look at depreciation, newer system, older system, changes in elevation, the wells, treatment standards, methods, and if there's any subsidization coming through rates or revenue. In other words, they artificially buy down the capacity fee through rates. That can affect what other rates are. That being said, I do have the comparison, and to be honest, on the water side, you can see you're the lowest out of all those. Now, what's in some of those, I'm not 100% sure. Different systems that have, like all those things that were on that other slide might go into it on the calculation, but that's where Cottonwood is on the water side. On the sewer side, you're about in the middle. You can see there's a lot of them that are close to what you're charging on the sewer, and of course some of the higher ones are in Sedona, Fountain Hills, Yuma, Chino Valley, Clarkdale even. So what are the next steps? Well, this is the calendar we've been following, and then on today, July 17th, it's a public hearing. After the public hearing, the council will be asked to adopt by ordinance to increase the capacity fees. And then the second reading of the ordinance is scheduled for August 7th with the effective date of the capacity fee 30 days after the adoption, which would be about September 7th, but you usually want to start it at the first of the month. It makes it easier for everyone in the building permit process, so it'll be October 1st, 2018. So with that, I'll turn it over to council with any questions or discussion or anything from the public.
Great, thank you for your overview. Any questions from council for staff or Ms. Walker? No, okay. No, we've gone over this in a couple other meetings.
So given that we serve water to Verde Village, okay, are they subject to these capacity fees?
Yes, they are. Councilmember Howdy, they are subject to the same capacity fees because obviously they are taking up the some of our capacity too.
But not the sewer fees?
No, not the sewer fees.
So any residential infill project then in the villages would be subject to this capacity fee?
The water portion of it.
Okay. Any other questions? And this is a public hearing, so I'd like to go ahead and open it up now to the public. If there are any folks here tonight that would like to address the council during this hearing. Okay. Certainly not your only opportunity to address your council. You can always email us your thoughts, concerns, even your support at any future date. Okay, then I will close the floor then to the public, and we can move on to ordinance number 643, adopting capacity fees for new non-exempt water and wastewater service connections. Just the first reading tonight, so I believe your presentation covered anything unless there's anything else you had to add.
Pretty much. Just as a reminder that we're doing capacity fees instead of impact fees. Capacity fees are restricted to water and wastewater projects, which is something that the city of Cottonwood has always used their impact fees. We've never collected impact fees for any other purpose, so it kind of dovetails really well with the philosophy that Cottonwood has. Outside of that, the idea that it is also can be used in the outlying areas, provided they are serviced by the city of Cottonwood, we're able to also collect because they would be using up our capacity.
Okay. All right. No further discussion, then I would just ask the clerk to read ordinance number 643 by title only, please.
Ordinance number 643, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, adopting new water and wastewater capacity fees on new non-exempt water and wastewater service connections from and after October 1st, 2018.
Okay, thank you. And thank you to Ms. Walker and Mr. Burnett for coming up tonight.
Amen.
Appreciate it. Thank
Mayor
you.
Council.
Okay, next on the agenda is resolution numbers 2958 and 2959, appointing members to the city's Industrial Development Authority Board.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Amanda Wilbur, your Human Resources Manager. There are currently 3 available seats on the Industrial Development Authority Board, for which we've received 2 applicants. Both applicants, Mark Hobson and Al Hilberger, reside within the incorporated city limits, have been on this board previously, and have agreed to serve on this board to help in its dissolution. Although neither are here tonight, appointing these 2 members will help the IDA proceed with the proposed dissolution process.
Okay.
With that, I'll take any questions.
Not related, I mean, related to the topic, but do we still need one more person, or can we move forward?
We wouldn't have to, because we would have a quorum.
Okay, thank you.
Well, even though they're not here, certainly thank them for us for their
Yes.
willingness. Yeah.
Thank you.
I move to approve resolution number 2958, appointing Mark Hobson, a member of the city's Industrial Development Authority Board. And I also move to approve resolution number 2959, appointing Albert C. Hilberger, a member of the city's Industrial Development Authority Board.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Henry made the motion, the Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, then resolutions pass, and City Clerk, please read resolutions number 2958 and 2959 by title only.
Resolution number 2958, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Mark Hobson, a member of the Industrial Development Authority Board for the City of Cottonwood, and establishing his term of office. Resolution number 2959, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, appointing Albert C. Hilberger, a member of the Industrial Development Authority Board for the City of Cottonwood, and establishing his term of office. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, up next under new business, item 4 is Old Town Association request for the remaining fiscal year 2017-18 funding allocation in the amount of $5,000.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm Kirsten Lennon, Accounting and Budget Manager. As you are aware, we brought it up in the previous budget meeting that they have requested the final 2 quarters of fiscal year 18 in funding. I've asked for some financial statements, and they're working on it, but I think they just got all the paperwork back from the police department, so they don't really have anything to give to us at this time. But it's kind of up to you guys. It's open for discussion on whether you'd like to fund these 2 requests for that payment.
Okay. So to be clear then, the expectation is that they invoice the city quarterly and
Yes.
would receive then $2,500 per quarter?
Yes.
And they're allowed $10,000 a year, okay? And you receive the first 2 quarters of invoices?
Before this, yeah, we received them back in December,
Okay. But not the
but
third or
not these
fourth?
2 until a couple weeks ago.
Okay. But administratively, it's my understanding that it's handled, even though some nonprofits may come in late, it administratively has been processed in the past?
It has been processed in the past. Typically, the agreement says they have 45 days after the end of the quarter to submit their invoice and their financial statements to us.
Okay.
And in the past, we've requested the city manager's approval, and that's what the IGA says as well. But
Okay. So it's not uncommon then to go ahead and issue the
no.
payment? Okay. Okay. All right. Would either of you 2 wish to present to council tonight? Okay. And thanks to you both for being here.
Hello. My name is Brenda Clouston. I'm the new president of the Old Town Association. Mr. Mayor, council members, and guests, thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the Old Town Association. A new board has been put in place to preserve and safeguard the 5013C, which is difficult to obtain, and to build upon the foundation that was recently shaken. We are here to build on the good portion of that foundation. We all recognize the importance of the Old Town District, not only for its ability to attract guests to beautiful Cottonwood, but also because it is a focal point of this great town. We, the merchants and hospitality professionals, see a much better Old Town in the future. When I say better, what I mean specifically by that is one that is more vibrant, more communicative with each other and the rest of the city, more friendly, more supportive, and more interactive with the surrounding area. There are so many benefits to a flourishing Old Town / Main Street that I won't take the time to mention them all. However, the biggest benefit is it brings people together to enjoy life. We are all, as individuals, battling our own challenges personally and professionally. Events and positive shopping and eating and drinking experiences in friendly places help soften the sharp edges of our daily lives. When we leave this positive impression on guests, this is what true hospitality is. And this, at its core, is what Old Town is all about. Yes, we are in business to sell things, but it is the creation of good memories that we all strive for and that will sustain us. To this end, we have sought out a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. We have met together to discuss an agreement which includes the Chamber acting as our fiscal agent. Our funding would flow through theirs, and they would release funds for us through a separate QuickBooks account. Debits would require 2 individuals' approval, among other checks and balances. We will remain separate entities, and OTA will be a branch of the Chamber. 1 or 2 OTA members will attend Chamber meetings and vice versa. We would integrate our social media and volunteer pools, which would give us much needed help and exposure. Christian, the president and the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, will now speak in more detail from the Chamber's viewpoint.
Evening.
Evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. So as Brenda said, I was able to meet with their board a couple times and discuss some ideas that we had and how we could work together. They recently attended my board meeting as well. And my board has come to the conclusion that it is best for us to step up and help them out in this situation. What that entails, we're still wanting to work out details with the city itself to find out what requirements you might have to meet that. But the other thing that we're doing is I will become a signer on their checking account. So all money would flow through the Chamber office. We would keep and maintain their separate checking account, as well as a accounting system, QuickBooks file, to maintain all of that. The idea is that I would attend their monthly meetings and report financially, and they would have at least 2 of their members attend our board meetings and report financially, so there's transparency there. All outgoing monies would require 2 signatures, mine being one of them, with probably their treasurer and or the executive committee, which would be the president and or secretary. So I think there's checks and balances there that would be put in place. Again, I would want to sit with the finance department to find out whatever other requirements they may want to see put in place. The Chamber currently has fiscal policies and procedures that we would be able to share with their board and make sure that those things are in place as well and present all of that to council. Regarding the quarterly reports, that is a little bit of a challenge in that the data is not current. What we've been able to find is from at least, I think at least 2011-ish, maybe. I have an update on that. You have an update on this. So we're discovering as we're moving along as well. So with that in mind, I'm setting up meetings with Gavin Galfont is the treasurer. We would sit down and probably have to rebuild a QuickBooks file based on income accounts and expense accounts that we would do. And then that would help us to do the quarterly reports to satisfy that need. Currently, we are marketing partners through the Office of Tourism's co-op marketing. We have established the CMC, which is the Cottonwood Marketing Coalition, which consists of CEDC, Cottonwood Parks and Rec, the OTA, and the Chamber of Commerce. I have reporting on that and can make that available to help to see what kind of marketing we're doing at least. And the plan is just to continue doing what we're doing in that partnership. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to grow, and right now we're thinking we would work through the end of the year, and come January 1st, I believe the next item on the agenda would be whether or not you would consider funding them for next year. we would appreciate if that was a possibility. And at that point, the chamber is still willing to move forward, but we would work out those details.
Okay.
That's where we're at. If you have any questions.
Any questions?
I
For
just have a
Mr.
statement.
Oh, yeah, please, go ahead.
This is what I wanted to hear the last time around. This is wonderful. I was very frustrated last time because, from my point of view, our hands were tied because even though we love the Old Town Association, we love Old Town, our number one responsibility is a fiduciary responsibility to the citizens of Cottonwood. Absolutely. Until we can get those assurances, it was a killer. I mean, Brenda understands that I would give her everything in my pocket, but it's not my pocket, it's the citizens' pocket. So the fact that you've come forward, and I talked to Christian earlier, and he gave me quite a bit of information of what you have accomplished at this point, is wonderful. This is what I wanted to hear at the last meeting. I'm glad you got together.
Unfortunately, at the last meeting, I wasn't privy to
right,
that.
and
so
I understand.
It was a timing issue, obviously.
It was.
We had been, toying with the idea, and until we had officially met, we didn't really want to,
I just appreciate it because I felt quite cornered that we were, quote, abandoning the Old Town Association. That was not even close to what's the truth. I mean, the city of Cottonwood has supported the OTA, Old Town, in more than any other individual with the possibility of Eric Jurison. We have done everything we can. So it was hard to have to make that decision, and I'm so relieved that things have changed and you two got together. And I know you've met multiple times at this point, so things have really worked out. I just wanted to thank you for that.
I tell you, the relationship has really grown. It's gone a little stale over the years, but I'm really excited to see where we're going and the possibilities. I love the idea that they're realizing Old Town is important in itself, but they are expanding and realizing, excuse me, that there's more out there and that we are a larger community and there's so much more we could do together. So
that's great.
Partnerships are key, and it's important to us as the chamber. So.
Great.
And personally, I'd like to thank you, Christian, for helping, and both sides, Ms. Clausen as well, for helping to work together collaboratively, because I think there are really good strengths, especially now with the fiscal responsibilities, but also the membership, and also Ms. Jimenez for volunteering and working with the OTA. So there's been a lot of work in the past few weeks, and I appreciate that a lot. All involved.
Thank you.
I can only echo what's been said. So again, I'm also pleased as well. I'm pleased too that you'll remain two separate entities. I think though you're working toward the same goal, you are still two separate entities, but cooperation really is key to all of our successes. So appreciate you working together and stepping up to make this grow stronger. Thank you.
And make a motion?
Did you have anything to say, Councilman?
I just wanted to say that Christian and I had a quite lengthy discussion about this because I wanted to be sure he was not jumping into something that would take too much time and overwhelm him, but he's very comfortable with it, with it, and I think it will work great.
Great.
All right.
Please. Thank you.
Okay. I move to approve the payment of the last 2 quarters of the Old Town Association's contributions from the city for fiscal year 2017-18.
I'll second that. So Vice Mayor made the motion, Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, that motion then passes. And up next on the agenda is a request for funding from the Old Town Association for fiscal year 2018-19.
Mr. Mayor, Council, as the council knows, at a special council meeting held on June 25th, 2018, during the call to the public hearing portion of the agenda regarding the adoption of the city's tentative budget for 2018-2019, representatives from the Old Town Association spoke and requested that the council consider funding the OTA for the city's new fiscal year, 2018-2019. At that time, they indicated they were in the process of reorganizing the OTA and recruiting new members, and tonight you've heard a report from them on the measures that they've implemented for their fiscal responsibility and their collaboration with the chamber. So this item's on the agenda for the council to consider adding them into the city's fiscal year 2018-2019 budget, which they're not in right now.
So, Ms. Lennon or whomever, how, explain the mechanics of that. We've set our tentative budget, the expenditure limitation, correct? So it's just a matter of council does decide now. Does this need to be decided now? Can we wait to see how this arrangement works throughout the rest of the year and then figure out how to shift money, or is this a decision that needs to be made now?
It doesn't have to be made now. We have budget authority. We would just pull the money from the reserve line to put into that 10,000.
Okay. I mean, I feel like 10,000 in a 60-some million dollar budget isn't, you know, a big hit, but it's still something that, you know, we would need to consider and shift money around. It's got to come from somewhere, even though we have the, you know, the authority to spend it. But I would like to see how the new arrangement works out. I have no problem funding the OTA as we have in the past, $10,000 a year. But I think that, you know, there's opportunity to see how this change, you know, impacts the relationship, and, you know, we may, I would like to hear from them more closer to the end of the year, so they can share with us their success, and I think council can then make its decision. That would be my preference, but it's really not up to me. It's up to the rest of the council. So
I think that's a good suggestion, Mayor, you know, to see how it goes. I'd also like to see those financial statements, and, you know, besides the money that was embezzled, where was the money going? Because there's a lot of public scrutiny out there about, well, if they had this much money that could be embezzled, why do they need $10,000 from the city? You know, they had, I think it was over $100,000 is what I'm hearing. You know, you hear different numbers, but, you know, if there was this much money that was there that could have been embezzled or stolen or whatever, why do they need $10,000 from the city? And so I think seeing those numbers later in the year after you can get everything together is a great idea. I like that.
And even exploring other funding options, you know, for the OTA, for the chamber. I mean,
I think he wants to address my.
If I may.
Yeah, because it's out there, and I'm being asked.
I can tell you specifically for this past year, and I can tell you that the agreement and the partnership that we've had since 2015 had to do with the co-op marketing program. And each year since 2015, I know that the OTA has partnered at least $5,000 of that 10 towards the marketing portion of that. So that's been funneled through the chamber, through the Arizona Office of Tourism program. So I know for this past year that $5,000 has already been spent and put into that program. This additional $5,000 was to just cover through the end of the year, third and fourth quarter, and the events that they would have been hosting, the chocolate walk, the Old Town Festival with the candy, and another.
Sip and stroll.
I'm not just talking about the 10,000.
I understand, but that's primarily where that funding came from. Other funding was coming into the OTA through the events that they were partnering with the city, so that's where some of that other money may have been coming in. That specific $10,000 generally was allotted towards marketing and those events.
And
if that was clear.
Mayor, Councilmember Althouse, I can respond that 100,000 was the total that they estimate was embezzled, but there were a couple of different victims, and I don't believe the Old Town Association was the victim with the largest loss. Right. So the $100,000 is not all the OTA.
And that's what's hard, is because that's what's out there.
Right.
You know, that's what we're hearing is, you know, OTA had $100,000 embezzled, and it's like, well, why do they need $10,000 from city council if they have $100,000 in their bank account?
Right.
You know.
Exactly. Right. And to address your issue as well, we are and have discussed the possibility of other funding sources. Mm-hmm. With the 501c3, there's opportunity for potential grants and whatnot, and we've also discussed the possibility of doing an educational component to that, which I would like to see them do. Potentially offering scholarships to the viticulture program or the culinary arts program. Right. It addresses the workforce development needs that are here in town, and it would make them, I think, a community champion that they can contribute to that. So, yeah. Some of the thoughts. So we are addressing those issues and trying to also find other revenue streams as well.
Great. That's excellent. Thanks for your work on that.
Sure.
Okay.
Also, we're trying to get the records from Chase Bank and they won't release them until the final articles of incorporation with all the officers' names on it are given to them. So I think it's going to be a couple.
If you could just speak in more closer to the mic, thank you.
I always forget about that. I think it's going to be a couple weeks before we get actual records.
Got it.
Because of the safeguards.
I work with a lot of, you know this, I work with a lot of 501c3s, and it's quite difficult. So I totally get that, and that's why I really like the mayor's suggestion of relooking at this, you know, maybe in January after they're able to,
December.
really get together and get everything organized and get those finances.
Will that work with the rest of the council?
Yeah, so what would we need to do, just table this item, Steve?
Yes.
So I,
And
Until December, because then do they start receiving funds the new next year?
They would invoice for the first quarter. I don't know when you receive that first quarter payment.
I think it's generally at the first of the quarter that they
usually submit a request at the end of the quarter.
end of the quarter.
So there would be a first.
It'd
be in October, we would get a request.
Okay.
I do have a question. So are these payments, the 5,000 now, enough to make sure that the fall events, because we've got, you know, Chocolate Walk and Safe Night, are funded?
We certainly hope so.
I have no idea. I didn't come on until November, so I don't really, we haven't, I don't know. We can certainly find out.
Go fund me.
Yeah.
If I could, Mayor, I would make the suggestion to the council that maybe you look at this in the first part of September and get a report at that time.
I was actually going to recommend that, since I'm sure I'm going to be handling the books. The company file will be created as soon as we get those bank records.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to start producing reports, I would imagine, by September, October.
Okay.
And at that point, we would be happy to come back and show a quick little, information basis there and see where we go. I would be happy again to do it at the end of the year. I think at that point, we will have information. So we certainly hope that we're going to be able to fund these events with those funds. I'm pretty sure that we can. I don't think that there are really any expenses at this point, so it should be easy to do.
Okay. Well, then we'll table this item for tonight, and then we'll just queue it up for September discussion.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we need an actual motion to table it then?
You can do it by motion or without objection. It can be considered tabled.
Okay.
I think we, just as an observation, bring this up, every year or so. We're not bound strictly to Robert's rules. We tend to follow them, use them as a guideline, but we're not. They become a trap for the unwary if we follow them in every particular.
All right. Then with Robert's permission, we'll move on to item 6, discussion and possible legal action to authorize the engagement of real estate broker to assist in marketing and selling certain city-owned properties. Mr. Cook.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Jeff Cook, the Contract and Purchasing Administrator for the city. And tonight I'm before you to request authorization for staff to hire a real estate broker to assist in the sale of city-owned properties. I'll start with a little background as to why we're making this request. We recently tried to sell one. On May 23rd, we issued a request for proposals inviting offers for the purchase of a vacant parcel located here in Old Town at 1032 North 1st Street. That's the old Gardner property. We put it everywhere. We put it in the paper, Facebook, our website, 4 physical postings, the MLS. We did what we could and only received 2 proposals, each of which were less than half of the appraised value for the property. So we've notified each proposer that we're not accepting those at this time. And given this experience, we feel that it's in the city's best interest to engage a real estate broker to give us the competition and exposure needed to try and sell these properties at least closer to the appraised value, if not at or above, as previously directed by council.
Makes good sense to me.
Blast from the past. It seems like a no-brainer. Absolutely.
I have a question though, because what is a broker going to do that, apart from listing the property on their website? They can't, it's raw land, so it's not like they can hold an open house or
Right,
something.
and that's what we thought initially, which is why staff went and tried to sell the property. Talking to Morgan Scott a little earlier today, he told me that he spoke with a few realtors, and even though it was on the MLS, and I think it was on Realtor.com as well, those real estate agents weren't interested in helping their clients out, I guess you could say, because they weren't going to make any type of commission off of the sale, since we were selling it ourselves. So aside from individuals actively seeking that themselves and hunting on the MLS, and we didn't have that extra boost from a professional in that field.
But we could authorize a buyer's agency fee as part of the sale.
We could.
Because I'm just concerned, because typical broker fees, we'd be looking at 6%.
Okay. Yeah, and I ran
Or
the numbers,
10%.
I think 6 to 10% is a range, and I think we have 1.1 to 1.5 million of appraised values in properties we'd be looking to sell. So a range at the high range of 1.5, that's 90 to 150,000. And on this property alone, rather than taking the proposals we received, if we were able to get the appraised value, I think we'd already be making up close to 50,000 on that one property alone. I don't know exactly how many we have, but a dozen or so?
Yeah, probably about a half dozen.
Half dozen.
Unless we sell these properties here.
So that would make up a considerable chunk just on one property if we were able to get the appraised value for this one that we attempted to sell. And, you know, of course, we'd always come back with approval of the agreement probably for the real estate broker. We're interested to see with the competition and the number of properties we have to sell, what those fees would come in at, and if they would stay at what is standard, or if anyone would be willing to do it for less, just based on the amount of properties and dollar value we have available.
So that was my question. How would you go about finding this broker? Are there cooperatives you can look into that you're so good at that?
Those cooperatives, I think that we kind of explored that in the initial phases. I wasn't finding a whole lot, but we could always do a request for proposals, inviting people to.
Or local.
So, yeah, anyone would be obviously invited to make a proposal, and we can evaluate, and they can give us their broker commission percentages and approach and everything else. Staff would evaluate and then bring a recommendation before council again.
Mayor, council members, Councilmember Henry got me thinking a little bit here. One of the things that we didn't do last time, which we could try without the help of a realtor, is to put out what the appraised value is, and just post it for sale as opposed to requesting proposals and just see what happens. Ourselves, as opposed to looking at paying a 6 to 10% commission to sell it. If that doesn't work, we can certainly always come back to the council and propose that we do use a professional to go out and market the property for us.
So, and just so my memory is clear, because I thought we were going to stagger the sales, because I think it's just the value of staff time. If we were putting them all on the market now, I would say, let's hire help. Let's get somebody in, negotiate a reduced amount. But if we are staggering them, as we discussed, one's on the market now, and then we wait until that sells, I don't know that it's as much of a demand on staff time. So I'm not comfortable saying staff sell all of them, and I mean, that would be a full-time job, I think. But I'd be interested in trying and saying maybe we'll offer a certain percentage for a buyer agent fee, and here's a minimum amount if we're able to do that. I don't know, what does everybody else think?
That's a good idea.
I think that would work for me. I also think, the RFP process too, to have realtors, I mean, if they know that the nugget they have to sell is $1.2 million, and they might want to if they get all of that action, then they might want to negotiate. We might get a competitive rate for what their fee would be to sell all of that property for the city, and that might be of benefit too. I think both could work.
I agree. I agree. I like Tosca thinks outside the box, and that's a great idea. And I think that's something that we can dip our toe in the water and see, and if it doesn't work, let's bring it back and come back to this again and see if we can do that. And in particular, what the mayor was saying about reaching out and seeing if somebody will reduce their cut if they're able to contract for all the properties.
And I just want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly, then for this one specific property, we relist again, ask for someone to help us out with the marketing aspect of that at a reduced fee, or we're going to offer a buyer agent fee?
I think what I heard is let's go ahead and advertise it just like we did last time, but advertise it with the appraised price.
Okay.
And then if we have a realtor who is interested in putting together a deal for us, we could certainly look at some type of a commission for doing that, coming back to the council with the entire package.
Okay.
Although it's my understanding that if you have a buyer who's represented by a realtor, that buyer ends up paying half of the commission as well.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's subject to negotiation. So if the council wants to set percentages, or if we want to just try it this way and say the city will negotiate a buyer's agent's commission, and then we would bring an offer back to you. I know the last time you gave us direction, I think it was to only bring you back offers that were at or near and maybe at appraisal. And we're in the market exploration phase right now, and it's probably going to be a little different for each parcel.
So we're going to go ahead and say, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We're going to state what the appraised value is, and also state that we'll entertain brokerage fees or agent fees. Is that correct?
Well, I had a question about that. Would we say, a requirement that we're at, offers should be at or above appraised value? Because otherwise.
That's the council's prerogative to direct staff to put in the advertisement that, so people are not coming in with lowball offers.
Because that's my concern. Otherwise, if we just say this is the value, then I think people will just try to lowball it and end up not having to pay for an appraisal. And I don't want to just waste time on a futile endeavor.
And I'm sorry, yeah, on that, the way you do it, obviously, with a real estate broker is there's an asking price. And then people can come in and make an offer. Nobody, generally, unless there's a bidding war, nobody's going to ask for undeveloped land over asking, but they may come in and make an offer that's reasonable but not quite asking. And if we're asking appraisal, the council might direct that we bring you offers after we've published this solicitation to sell the property and the appraised value. You may want to see what offers come back in rather than tell us to screen them in some certain way.
And would it be, I guess the question would be, is the council interested in at appraised value or above, or at appraised value or near appraised value? I mean, would the council entertain something slightly below?
And we're on the record, so we're negotiating with buyers in real time right now.
Right now.
Yeah. No pressure. I think it depends for me how near.
Yeah, I mean, like my dad always said, something's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. So I mean, we're testing the market.
Yeah.
We don't know till we try.
And again, if the council's willing to allow staff some discretion here, I mean, if we feel that it's a reasonable offer based on others that we've received, then I would ask that you give us the discretion to bring that back to the council for consideration.
Please.
Okay. Thank you.
You have your marching orders?
I think so. Thank you.
All right. Okay, item 7 is possible award of pre-construction design phase services contract to Felix Construction for the 260 SR State Route 260 waterline, well site, and reservoir project.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Robert Winnicky, City Engineer. Tonight I'm bringing to you a design phase contract for a contractor that we went out to do a CM at risk on the D&K, or a new water line from D&K well site to Walmart. This is an expansion of our system, boost our fire flows, and provide just a better flow overall to our major commercial area there. We went out to solicit a contractor based on some of our low bid experience recently, and thought that CM at risk would be a better way to go. So we had 6 interested parties. We interviewed the top 3, and of the top 3, the contracting team I'm bringing to you tonight, Felix Construction and A&E, were the top ranked firm. What we'd like to do is go ahead and enter into a pre-construction phase services contract with them to not exceed $35,444, so they can do peer review and also develop a GMP for us, so we can get an actual guaranteed price as to what we're going to be looking at when we build this water line. Okay.
And for the council members who may not have been on the council at the time, this is a WIFA, a Water Infrastructure Financing Authority project. We had to do a new project to be able to refinance some of our water bonds, and so they gave us the money to do this project and forgave a substantial portion of it in the process. So we're moving ahead to get that water line installed.
Okay. So then when they come back with their GMP or the guaranteed maximum price, then we still have an option to
yes, we do.
Accept or deny
Correct.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And they're well aware of the budget at this point, so I'm sure things will probably work out pretty well.
Right. Okay. All right. Any other questions from council on this? No? No. Okay, I'll go ahead and move to award a pre-construction design phase services contract to Felix Contracting for an amount not to exceed $35,444 to provide pre-construction services for the State Route 260 water line, well site, and reservoir project, subject to approval of the final form agreement by the city attorney.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Norman seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, motion's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
And item 8 is approval of required additional contribution toward the cost of the Mingus Avenue reconstruction project.
Yep. I'm going to stay here again, Robert Winnicky, City Engineer. Got some good news and bad news for the Mingus Avenue project. Good news is we're almost done with it. That's great, right? Jump for joy. Unfortunately, it comes at a cost. This is kind of where we're at. Start with, this project started in October. The contract was established and administered through ADOT. ADOT set the construction time for us. It was approximately 180 working days. So that's considered Monday through Friday, and that's roughly 9.5 months is what that turns out to be. So with that, we have some overruns, and the big overruns are on traffic control items and safety related things. So if I go back through what I provided you for the detailed estimate, there is a list of a number of items where you can see we're at 100%, 97%, 40%, 0%, and that's because this estimate is prepared as we're going through and trying to finalize the project. But if you turn to page 4 of 8 of that, you pretty much have a series of traffic control related items where we have a lot of overruns. And those are for barricades, warning lights, multiple types, temporary signage, flagging for, giving people direction as to where they should be going, as well as off-duty police officers so we can help enforce speed limits through the work zone. So those items in total themselves, there's 2, 4, 6, roughly $96,000 over on the budget or compared to the original estimate. And then there's a couple other items in here that are kind of a little bit on the higher side. One is granite mulch, that's on page 5 of 8. And that's basically the decorative rock that we put behind the sidewalk to go ahead and kind of give a nice visual appeal to the project once it's completed. Then you have on page 6, erosion control wattles, roughly $3,900 over. That's basically stormwater requirements. We're required by ADEQ to go ahead and protect stormwater quality, and these are measures to go ahead and help do that. Let's see. And lastly, on page 7 of 8, there's another rather large overrun, which is miscellaneous work, control of noxious plants. Basically, this is, growing season of weeds. We want to go ahead and keep the weeds down. That's another thing. So that overran as well. Let's see. I'll go over a little bit of some other items here. So roughly there's 108,000, just under 108,000 in overruns on those items when you sum them all together. The construction engineering cost, which is A.R.S inspection, all their administration and everything, that's figured at 15% of the overall contract. Roughly, based on the revised amount, that's an increase of $72,405 and some change. And then lastly, at the time that this estimate was prepared, there were several items that had just been placed or hadn't been finished yet, like the paving on North Ave of Angus, as well as signage, adjusting manhole frames and covers and grade, and some other items that need to be done to complete the work. Those roughly another 75,000 of work remaining to be completed. So this is how we get to this 243,000 number in that range of where it's over. What I'm asking is to have you authorize up to 300,000, just so any unforeseens that we can have at least authorization to take care of that. If I can step back real quick, back to the IGA that was originally approved by past council for this project, we had $845,000 of federal funds going into this project. Because there's federal funds, the city is not allowed to administer that. We're not recognized by FHWA as an authorized entity to expend their funds, so that's why ADOT is involved. And at that time, the estimate was roughly $2.1 million, and the city had agreed at that point to go ahead and cover any costs beyond what the federal funding was authorized at. So we've kind of accepted that we're going to be doing this in the first place. Now is the final accumulation, unfortunately.
So I'm confused. So who was in control of the overages? Who oversaw?
ADOT's the one that's been overseeing the entire project the whole way.
Who's responsible for these cost overruns?
Ultimately, the city is, based on our agreement with ADOT.
The city wasn't performing any of the work. I mean,
No,
we're overseeing any of the work.
Right. We're just there for a third party, basically. Well, majority of what I ended up doing for ADOT was to go ahead and handle public information.
What I don't mean is who's financially responsible.
No,
I understand it sounds like we signed on to that, but who, was it the contractor? Was it the?
I think ultimately what happened with regards to the traffic control items, those items were within the contract time. So basically, what probably happens when the engineer put the plans together back when they did their original estimate, they said they figured the contractor was going to have 170 days to do the work, but they were going to get it done in 120. So they probably based their estimate off of 120 working days to go ahead and come up with their initial numbers. And then as the contractor was given the larger amount of time to complete it, then that just continued to go ahead and fill the gap almost.
But who was the engineer that did put the estimate together?
Well, actually, our engineer prepared an estimate initially, and then ADOT has a construction and specifications group, or contract specifications group, where they go ahead and they actually put together all the cost models based on what their realized totals are, or bids are from all the past projects. And then based on the number of days they give, they go ahead and have their percentage estimates to go ahead and come up with construction engineering costs and a whole bunch of other things. So ultimately, the bid came from the estimates came from two places: our design engineer and then ADOT construction specifications. And the two were in the ballpark at the time.
Of around 2.1.
I believe so, yeah, the original estimate that we had. So that's the reason why the project moved forward at that point.
I mean, am I the only one that feels like this is a raw deal?
Yeah. No,
you're not.
You're not. And I have a question, and maybe this can't be answered out here, but what happens if we say no? I mean,
if I may, Mayor, Ms. Althouse, my legal opinion about this is grr. It's frustrating. This is in the nature of a compulsory change order. We agreed, so if we were the owner if we were the true owner on the project and ADOT wasn't acting as the administrator, we'd have the contractor approaching us with a change order request, and we'd be reviewing that. ADOT, we agreed that ADOT could perform that function as part of the exchange of promises that gave us the privilege of accessing the federal money, ADOT serving as the pass-through. So we bound ourselves, and this isn't negotiable. So when ADOT, comes to us with this boilerplate IGA, it's take it or leave it. And so they had us, like they have any other local government, promise to pay any overages plus the administrative costs on the overages. So they perform the function that we would perform otherwise. It's not like they perform no due diligence when they get a change order request or when there's an overage, but they become the decision maker rather than the city.
But they bear no
correct
responsibility.
Yes.
Yeah,
And is that risk that most other municipalities assume when they have ADOT?
On these FHA projects, yes. And this is, ADOT is notoriously challenging for local governments to work with because there's the ADOT way of doing business, and a local jurisdiction's choice is to say yes or no.
This is a big drop. I mean, Rudy probably was saying some pleasant things after he heard this. Doug, I know we've spoken about this before. What have we done so this doesn't happen again?
Doug, if I could real quick.
Sure.
Okay. Councilman Allen. One of the things that we're looking at doing is the state has just reauthorized the Highway User Revenue Fund Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
We can actually take advantage of that where we exchange federal funds for state dollars. Basically, we lose 10 cents on the dollar, but we no longer have to deal with ADOT administering our projects. And we also get the option to incorporate bid alternates into our projects. So we have another round of federal money coming up in 21 and 23. 21 would be design, 23 would be construction. And what we've done is submitted to NACOG a request to go ahead and exchange those funds for the more lenient dollars. That way we can administer it ourselves. So we're trying to keep that control in-house.
Thank you for that information.
But for the current $300,000, we still have to.
And I agree with our city attorney. I mean, this contract, I don't like it, but it says in so many different places that we agree, accept all the excess financial responsibility. I mean, it's like they throw it in almost every paragraph.
Black and white.
It pained me to read it.
But is there anything moving forward still on this project that the city can do to make that extra number close? Can we reduce it? Is there anything we can do to not have to pay even the lower number that you'd estimated, the 200?
The 243-ish. I can go back and look and see if there's some items that we can take out. But we're so close to being completed at this point, we really don't have much latitude to go ahead and take care of that. One thing I could possibly do, and I'm going to try and work on this, is to see if we can approach NACOG to see if we can get a little bit of additional funds through there, take it back to the council, and get all the parties to vote on it to see if we can get some additional assistance there. I know some of the other members of the COG have gone ahead and done that on past projects, and they've received favorable outcomes.
That would be great.
So I'm going to give that a shot as well.
Otherwise, are we progressing? Are we back on schedule to wind up within the 180 days that you said? I
think right now it shows that there'll be 4 days over. And so there would be liquidated damages that ADOT can assess, which is, a way to remedy some money back, but it's not going to be anywhere close to this number, obviously. So currently the target is final striping of the project will be done next Thursday. So we have, that light at the end of the tunnel is getting a lot brighter. They should be wrapped up with all the construction work next week.
Okay, thank you.
Then we tear up the other end.
Yeah, exactly.
And I certainly wouldn't mind writing a letter of concern for the mayor's signature to the director of ADOT, because I think there was disappointment all throughout this project about how it was managed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be
This
happy
was
to.
a very disappointing project, and no fault of yours, Robert.
No problem, thank you.
I've had to call you on more than
Just
one
a couple
occasion.
times, yeah, exactly.
But this was just, this, we've got to do better. And I know, the next phase we'll be doing in-house, and we won't have ADOT, and I just know we're going to do a hell of a better job on it, but this project has been awful.
Right.
Yeah. We've become the scapegoat for
yes.
a project that just didn't seem to be managed very well. I mean, the timeline, 9.5 months to get that section of roadway done just seems extraordinary to me.
Absolutely.
Can we all sign that letter?
Yeah, sure.
And I think what we learned is if you give that amount of contract time, that's the amount of contract time it will take. So that's an important and painful lesson learned.
And that's one thing we'll apply to the next phase is to see how generous of a time frame it was. We will be able to tighten that down quite a bit.
Just so I'm clear, is the next phase, are we proceeding under the same management structure for the next phase?
No,
Okay.
no, there's no federal money involved in the next
No, I
phase.
said it wouldn't be run by ADOT, it would be run by the city, so hopefully the city will do a much better job, because this one has been run under ADOT.
Okay.
We really had no control except for, paying the bills.
And we've already had discussions about making sure the timeline's real tight. So,
I think it's imperative, but that's a different topic. Same topic, but, yeah.
Well, somebody here remind future councils whenever federal money comes up to consider this. So, all right, well, we need a vote, a sour vote here. So, do I hear anyone eager to make a motion on this tonight? I mean, I'll do it.
I need a motion.
Sure, please.
Thank you.
I move to authorize an increase in the city's contribution towards the construction and project management costs of the current phase of the Mingus Avenue reconstruction project by an amount not to exceed $300,000.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Haudegi made the motion. Councilmember Henry seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, the motion is approved.
And Mr. Mayor, this is the last evening that the council has the ability to take a generic non-roll call vote beginning August 3rd. It will be by roll.
Okay. It's been fun.
Can I change my last name?
Yeah, right.
My husband would appreciate it.
All right, thank you, council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I would move to pay the claims.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Henry seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion's approved. Next on the agenda is annual review of the city clerk executive session. Pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes, blah, blah, blah. The council may vote to convene in executive session to conduct its annual performance evaluation of city clerk, subject to the city clerk's right to compel the council to discuss this matter in open session. I do believe the clerk would like to meet in executive session.
Yes, Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. And for the folks in the audience tonight, you're more than welcome to stick around. We'll be out. Can't say when, but we will be out after her review. Appreciate you being here.
I move